Hey, what up? It's BBear. I'm taking you inside the studio. Recently, I've taken all my hardware synths and I've put them all on one table so that I can just kind of turn everything on and go and start composing. That's going to be my workflow for this next year. And I'm working on a bunch of different stuff, but I definitely want to do something with this table full of hardware. So let me just kind of go over the gear that I have, how I have it connected, and maybe it'll help you putting together your own setups at home. So basically, we start out with the microKORG. It does do some sound generation, but for the most part, it's just MIDI input. Now, from there, that's routed right into this STEINBERG UR44. That way, when it gets routed back out, I can put in MIDI input for every other synth that I have, and then have the STEINBERG just route it all out to the different channels. That's done with this MIDI merge box that's back here. Now, this isn't the final one I'll be using. This is just one I had lying around. It's got some issues with losing the MIDI information because it's a USB interface primarily and not a merge box. So, going out from the merge box, the first port actually goes back to the microKORG. That way I can sequence stuff for the microKORG as well. But then the next port goes to this Novation circuit. That's my primary sequencer for the whole kit. So everything's basically done. Now, it is recorded into the iPad with Cubases too, but as far as the actual sequencing, I'm doing most of that on hardware just because it's a little more immediate. Also connected to the circuit on its MIDI out port is this Yamaha TX81Z. Classic FM sounds, but I didn't have any other MIDI merge ports to put them on, so you gotta kind of daisy chain at the end when you only have 4 ports and more than 4 synths. Moving on from there, we've got the VOLCA kick, and this is all the sub bass in my productions is basically coming from here. Massive kick drums, great sub bass and bass lines you can get with this thing, and there's a lot of different time bass effects that it can do. So that's basically our kick generator. Next to that, the JU06, pretty decent emulation of a Juno 106. I mainly got it because I had a Juno 60 years ago that I sold, and I wanted that sound again. For me, I can't really tell the difference. A lot of people say it's not analog, it's digital, but when it's in a mix, you can't really tell. It doesn't matter. If it sounds good to you, use it. That's my motto. Okay, so moving on, we have this AKAI Rhythm Wolf drum machine. A lot of people hate this thing. They really do. For the price that I paid for it, it was actually worth it. So the bass synth that's on this thing, it does tend to fall out of tune at certain points. So you want to make sure that you calibrate it and don't try to do too much outside of it 1 octave because it doesn't track very well. It's got its problems, but it also has its uses. And that's what a lot of this gear is. A lot of it is cheap, but I put it together. It's just a better workflow for me. All right, so that's all tied together. That's the MIDI routing. And then the audio routing takes place over here. We've got this TASCAM mixer that I picked up. It's not a Neve by any means, but I don't need it to be. I just need it to cleanly mix the audio. Now, I do have color of the sound coming in on this Art Tube Fire 8. That was my old multi-channel interface. I have a new one now. So this has been relegated to preamp duty. Adds a little tube distortion. It's not what I would call a tube amp, but it does color it in a way that I enjoy. Compression, I have this Comp 3A, which is an LA 3A clone. I have that routed to aux input on the mixer. Same with the DEP5, that's my main reverb duty. You're actually hearing both the compressor and the reverb on my voice right now. I don't have it turned up too high, it's just give me that little radio vibe. It seems to be working. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I sound like a dork. I do that anyway. Finally, all of that is running from the mixer into the Steinberg, and the Steinberg is running 4 tracks out into this Marantz PMD 720. No real reason why I'm bouncing everything down to 4 tracks, just an aesthetic that I was doing. From there, the cassette 4 tracks are then bounced back into my digital mix machine over there that I'm producing the new Pizza album and some other stuff on, and where I do all my mixing. So it kind of gets me away from the mixing desk, as it were, and puts me into more of a musical area. So everything over here is music. Everything over there is, mixing, editing, all the technical, less creative stuff. There is creativity involved in mixing, but it's a more straightforward thing. So you're sitting there, you're clicking, you're moving faders. Here you're moving around, you're making music. So I just have a different mindset for each side of the studio I'm working on. It keeps me from, getting bored, starting to check Facebook, all the stuff that gets in the way and eats up time. All right, so that's pretty much it. In the next episode, I'll go over, how I actually set up the MIDI routing. I'll have the actual MIDI merge box and everything mapped to the proper channels. Right now, it's just set up because I'm testing it just to make sure that it works. The MIDI box that I have does not, so there's no point for me to set up the MIDI channels. The next time, I'll have the channels set up, and I'll show you how you can take one port and power a whole bunch of different synths with it, and then really get into using the iPad to sequence, because it's a little more immediate than a computer. You're clicking, you're connecting, you gotta wait for the computer to boot up. This is really instantaneous. All right, so that's it.